vital pulp therapy, pulp capping, pulpotomy, apexogenesis, and apexification. This is the frontispiece and the title page from FAF's original publication. This is all discussed in previous videos. The first question the dental surgeon of today asks himself is not. The first question the dental surgeon of today asks himself is not, can I save the tooth, but can I save the pulp? Can I save the tooth, but can I save the pulp? This gentleman has not added much or our labor and anxieties. This gentleman has not added much or our labor and anxieties, but is also contributed much to our professional usefulness to mankind, but is also contributed much to our professional usefulness to mankind. We all know how easily and successfully a case of accidental exposure can be treated. My usual plan is to swab out the cavity with carbolic acid, which will arrest the bleeding, then point of place of the point of exposure a small piece of coat plaster or blotting of Fletcher's artificial dentin or blotting of Fletcher's artificial dentine. This can be applied in a more plastic state than the phosphate fillings, and unlike oxychloride of zinc, it is non-irritant, and unlike oxychloride of zinc, it is non-irritant and easily removed if necessary. When this has hardened the permanent filling, when this has hardened, the permanent filling may be proceeded with at the same sitting. The reason these cases are so easily dealt with is that the reason these cases are so easily dealt with is that the reason these cases are so easily dealt with is that the pulp is quite healthy, and if covered with a non-conductor at once, so as to exclude the germs of microorganisms, it will heal by first intention. It will heal by first intention, say primary healing. But in those cases where the exposure results from caries, the difficulties are vastly greater, as the pulp is almost sure to be inflamed and probably suppurating. My experiences of these cases treated by capping is the reverse of satisfactory. My experiences of these cases, that means the pulp exposure due to caries, right, treated by capping is the reverse of satisfactory. The percentage of successful cases being small, and on this point I hope and on this point I hope some of the gentlemen present will give us the benefit of experience, and on this point I hope some of the gentlemen present will give us the benefit of experience. The first point is to determine the condition of the pulp. The history of the case is often deceptive, for the cavity is in such a position as not to be exposed to impact to the impact of food. It may not have given much pain and yet be suppurating, but in the order we have a certain means of diagnosis. If that peculiar phosphatic order is present, I, I very much doubt the possibility of saving the tooth, saving the pulp, and think an attempt at capping will result in its death and eventually in a chronic abscess. In such cases, the destruction of the pulp is, I think, by far the best treatment. Should capping be determined upon the application to the exposed surface of iodoform and eucalyptus oil has generally proved the most successful, it may then be covered with artificial dentin, Fletcher's artificial dentin, and it may then be covered with artificial dentin. And in these cases, it is always safer to put in a temporary filling for a few weeks, which can be removed in case of pain. First, you keep the artificial dentin, over which you keep the temporary filling rather than a permanent filling for a few weeks. After the observation of evaluation whether the condition of the pulp is good after a few days appointment, you can remove the temporary filling and place the permanent filling. Temporary filling for a few weeks, which can be removed in case of pain. Hill's gutta percha over the artificial dentin answers very well. Hill's gutta percha over the artificial dentin answers very well. The historical presentation by Harding highlights many key issues in the pulp capping controversy. The historical presentation by Harding highlights many key issues in the pulp capping controversy that has existed for decades. Firstly, the need to eliminate bacteria was highlighted, although it was not really taken into serious consideration regarding pulpal health until the publication by Kaki Hash High et al. Kaki Hash High et al. In 1965. Secondly, the need to establish a pulpal diagnosis was the key to choosing the right treatment. The need to establish a pulpal diagnosis was the key to choosing the right treatment. However, Harding could only identify two parameters, those being order and the possibility of suppuration, for which the latter was the guesswork at best. Thirdly, as with the Harding, Selger and Bender discouraged the use of pulp capping on carelessly exposed teeth as opposed to Harding. However, these later authors were able to provide histological justification for their position. While the contemporary use of pulp capping has been questioned, Recent studies have endorsed this procedure in teeth with incompletely formed roots and, and exposed pulps, while the contemporary use of pulp capping has been questioned. Recent studies have endorsed this procedure in teeth with incompletely formed roots. This procedure in teeth with incompletely formed roots and exposed pulps. In particular, studies by Weck and others have reported a high degree of success with pulp capping and partial pulpotomy in cases of teeth with traumatic pulp exposure of varying sizes and mature on and mature or immature root development, that is by apexogenesis. Along with pulp capping, partial or full pulpotomies are considered within the realm of vital pulp therapy. Along with pulp capping, partial or full pulpotomies are considered within the realm of vital pulp therapy. Pulpotomies differ from pulp capping in the amount of tissue that is removed. From an historical viewpoint, it is possible that investigators and clinicians intermingled these procedures in their reports. From an historical viewpoint, it is possible that investigators and clinicians intermingled these procedures in their reports. However, a partial or full pulpotomy has been used with high degrees of success for caries, mechanical and traumatic exposures of the pulp, primarily in the presence of immature root development. However, a partial or full pulpotomy has been